Our co-main event for UFC 284 is Yair Rodriguez versus Josh Emmett for the featherweight interim belt, as Alexander Volkanovski is moving up to lightweight to take on Islam Makhachev for double champ status. This matchup is super interesting with a plethora of circumstances surrounding it. For Yair Rodriguez, his last fight was against Brian Ortega, where Brian Ortega did get injured in that first round, so it's kind of iffy to justify a title shot for Yair Rodriguez after that matchup. For Josh Emmett, his last couple fights have been a little bit controversial with some of the fan base. Some of the people thought he lost both of his fights against Dan Ige and Calvin Kattar. So that's why this matchup is super interesting. Made a lot of people happy, everybody in the situation pretty much. We had two fighters coming off of iffy situations where you couldn't really argue for them to get title shots. So you put them together. They both wanted title shots. Put them together for an interim bout, and then have the winner fight Alexander Volkanovski for the actual featherweight title once he's done with Islam Makhachev. So if you have not seen my early prediction and breakdown videos before, I'm basically going to break down how these guys physically match up against each other, and I'm going to break down how I think the fight will go down. So let's get right into it without further ado. We have Yair Rodriguez at 15-3 and Josh Emmett at 18-2. Yair Rodriguez is 29 years of age and Josh Emmett is 37. So Yair Rodriguez is about 8 years younger than Josh Emmett in this matchup. So Yair just barely kind of entering his prime. Still a couple years to learn a little bit for him. For Josh Emmett, he's getting up there in age at 37 years old. This will be at 145 pounds. Yair Rodriguez will be about 5 inches taller than Josh Emmett in this matchup, and will have a 1 inch reach advantage along with a 2-inch leg reach advantage in this matchup. So let's get right into their previous matchups so we can kind of break down how these fighters did in those matchups and how they kind of are coming into this matchup particularly. Sorry, it's like 4 a.m. right now. For Yair Rodriguez, his last fight was against Brian Ortega. Again, shoulder injury in that first round. He was beating him, but it's kind of hard to justify a title match, especially after losing to Max Holloway the fight previously. But he did look really good there, so you can kind of justify, but not really, in all honesty, especially with the injury to Brian Ortega. Previously, we had the two fights with Jeremy Stevens. The first matchup being the eye gouge situation, and then the rematch where he did win against Jeremy Stevens with a unanimous decision. For Josh Emmett, last fight was against Calvin Kattar, split decision. Quite a bit of people thought Calvin Kattar won that matchup. Before that, Dan Ige, unanimous decision. Quite a bit of people thought Dan Ige won that decision. He did win against Shane Burgos and then won against Mirsad Bektic. For how I think this fight will go, I am going to go with Yair Rodriguez, but I'm not confident in it at all. There's certain parts of this matchup that actually kind of worry me a little bit. I think Josh Emmett has a really good chance in this matchup also. I'm not 100% confident on it. I might change my pick when I get to predicting it in about 3 weeks. So for this matchup, I noticed Josh Emmett kind of keeps his head a little bit lower. You saw it in that Calvin Kattar fight. Calvin Kattar used his front kick to kind of keep a good range on Josh Emmett. And I think a guy like Yair Rodriguez, who does kick a lot, who does have that kind of wild style, who does throw a lot of front kicks, it'll kind of keep Josh Emmett a little bit worried to get a little bit more in the pocket and maybe try and get a takedown. Because Josh Emmett could definitely use his wrestling on Yair Rodriguez. Yair Rodriguez showed a little bit of decent wrestling defense against Brian Ortega, but it wasn't enough to really be confident in it. He did get taken down by Max Holloway too, so you can take that how it is. For Josh Emmett, he's going to have to get inside, though, to actually deal some damage to Yair Rodriguez, and that's going to be kind of hard to do here. Yair Rodriguez can keep a really good range on Josh Emmett here with those front kicks, with his kicks in general and body kicks, and Josh Emmett's going to be the smaller guy. He's going to be the older guy, so you got to kind of keep an idea of the durability of Josh Emmett at this point in his career. Also, what is kind of worrying me here for picking Yair Rodriguez is his defense. So for Josh Emmett, he does kind of counter a little bit. He doesn't really throw too many combos, but he does counter with some shots as guys throw. So for Yair Rodriguez, defensively, he kind of doesn't really put his hands up. In the Brian Ortega fight, he did kind of do it a little bit. He kind of put his hands up. But when he throws, even Brian Ortega, who isn't the best stand-up guy, he is good stand-up, but isn't the best, isn't like a Max Holloway or anything like that, was still landing some good counter strikes on Yair Rodriguez in that matchup. Max Holloway was doing it a lot. So that's why I am a little bit worried, but Josh Emmett is a smaller guy. If Yair Rodriguez is able to keep a good range on Josh Emmett in this matchup, I don't think he should have any issues. I could see Yair Rodriguez finishing Josh Emmett maybe with like a front kick or a body shot hurting Josh Emmett and then him just teeing off on him maybe in like the 3rd or 4th round. But for Josh Emmett, he does have that some pretty deadly power. It's that right hand that he does load up a little bit, so that's why I'm not too worried. Well, I am kind of worried about this matchup, but he does load up that hand, so maybe Yair Rodriguez can kind of calculate it a little bit and maybe dodge it and use some head movement. Like, he has decent head movement, but it's not enough for me to be comfortable in his defense. He kind of relies on that a little bit too much with this the counter strikes that he faces. So I'm not too confident in that at all. So that's why this matchup is a little iffy for me. So I do think Yair Rodriguez can keep a good range in this matchup, and I think he's gonna be pretty faster than Josh Emmett in this one too. Josh Emmett is super explosive, kind of winds up his shots quite a bit. At least with that big right hand, he winds it up a lot. So I think Yair Rodriguez can see that. With the counter punches with Josh Emmett, he does need to be a little bit worried about, and maybe getting pushed into the fence where it is a little bit closer, where a guy like Josh Emmett can tee off there and maybe try and go for a takedown. That is a little worrisome for Yair Rodriguez here, but I think Yair Rodriguez can keep a good range. Maybe use some of his hands like Cater did in their matchup and kind of block some of Josh Emmett's shots there. And maybe the range will try and help him with the takedown defense a little bit. So I'm going to go with Yair Rodriguez maybe finishing Josh Emmett in like the 3rd or 4th round in this one. Most likely 4th is what I'm thinking. But this isn't anywhere confident at all. This can definitely change within 3 weeks for sure. So I'm not necessarily super confident in this pick, but I just think the durability of Yair Rodriguez is going to help him here. 37-year-old Josh Emmett, I don't really trust him to take the shots that Yair will give him more than Josh Emmett giving the shots to Yair. I think Yair could probably take a lot more shots than Josh Emmett can at this point in his career. So I'm going to go Yair Rodriguez with the finish in the round, just like late 3rd or I think probably 4th round is probably the sweet spot there. So not Josh Emmett, Yair Rodriguez by finish in that 4th round. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Tomorrow will likely be the Islam Makhachev versus Volkanovski early predictions, so stay tuned for that. Tell me who you think will win this fight in the comments below. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys